Jennifer, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Michael. Nice to see you.
Likewise, we refer to your publication as the publication with two Jennifers.
That's that's right.
Oh man. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Really excited about this conversation and to find out more about what you guys are doing in Charleston and Greenville and throughout South Carolina.
Yeah.
If I may, I would like to use my editorial privilege starting off. I never really like to ask a person, tell me about yourself, because if I've done my job with the time that we have together, I will leave the audience knowing exactly who Jennifer Sutton is. And
Okay.
so I like to start with the more substantive question. Uh, on your website, the Orange Whip, you
Hmm.
guys say, we're not an aggregator, we are a navigator.
That's right.
Please explain.
Okay. So every startup, every new, every company, they exist because they solve a problem, right?
Right.
For us, that was creating a platform and a media company that gives information that is inspirational and motivational,
Mhm.
but at the same time, we give access and access to resources, but explanation of those resources so you can navigate in your own local community. The who are the accelerators, the incubators, who are the SBA lenders in your local community, who has grants and funding abilities for different industries. So it is really helping someone to understand everything about that local market in
Mhm.
order to start up, to scale up, to form an enterprise, and grow into an enterprise, or to prepare for an exit. So we call ourselves, we're part storytellers. We are part inspiration, kind of the bright spot in people's day, but we're navigators
Mhm.
and guidance counselors, pushing people down the avenue so that someone can accelerate on their business journey.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, a little bit more about the Orange Whip. You guys interact with a lot of entrepreneurs throughout the state. So tell me a little bit about the mission of the Orange Whip, and most importantly, what does Orange Whip mean?
Yeah. So I'll start with, what does Orange Whip mean? So I founded a full service marketing and advertising agency in 2013. I've spent, before that, I've spent 25 years in the marketing and ad agency business, working for different agencies on big brands, small brands, startup brands in the media space. So I was the one that decided and try to evaluate where we should tell that brand's story,
Mhm.
right place, right time, right message, and how do we combine those. So I've worked with thousands of publishers and media outlets across the country over my 25 years. But I started an agency because I felt like there was a better way to serve the business community. Being a founder myself, then through that journey, I didn't realize how isolated and how difficult it was to build a community. And not until 2018, I got involved in a minority business accelerator here in Greenville that really allowed me to, it just really opened my eyes and had these aha moments of, okay, I'm doing about 80% right. I need to work on the other 20%. But I got the tools and the discipline and the focus of how to be able to scale my business. But the most, I guess, important thing that I took away from that program was the importance of a community, people to lean on, a place to feel safe and to have vulnerable conversations, a place that I can ask questions that I'm, maybe not comfortable to ask my staff, or walking just into, a small business counseling office of, I don't even know how to prepare. Like, what can they do for me? So that's where OrangeWip kind of was born of. One, I feel like I'm always a work in progress. The business, no matter if you're a startup or a scale up, you're always working on the business and your business is always in progress. Um, and orange in marketing color theory means forward thinking, thought leadership, solutions, and service. Those are Brightco colors. So when we developed the brand and really the name, our team felt it was important to give kind of a nod to Brightco
Okay.
and that connection. But the colors made sense. So OrangeWip was born of WIP meaning work in progress. So that was where that was born. And then, you would ask like, what are we doing? What's our mission? We are a mission driven organization. And that means we want to inspire and motivate and connect founders and entrepreneurs to the right resources, the right events, the right information in order for them to pursue and grow in their professional business journey. Again, whether it's startup, scale up, creating an enterprise, or preparing for an exit.
Okay. Want to talk? I'll talk to you a little bit about some statistics in terms of minority business, especially women-owned business. Now, there are some statistics out that says that women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing in the market, but still they only account for about a little under 20% of the actual businesses that are actually established. Can you expound on that and give me some reasons behind that?
Well, some of the stats that we've seen are, yes, women entrepreneur. I think in 2021, there was a increase of, I want to say like 20 to 30% new women entrepreneurs entered the space as in registered businesses. And that made up, I think right now, 49% of all businesses in the United States are owned by women. But here's the kicker to that is a lot of them are solopreneurs, right? They're not quite they haven't fully started up or kind of moved across the journey. Some are choosing to stay as solopreneurs. Some don't know how to move past going from 1 to 5 people to 10 people to 250 people. But out of that, 49% of all the businesses in the United States, that's 13 million businesses owned by women. Only 2% of them exceeded 1 million in revenues mark.
Wow.
So that means there's barriers, right? And a lot of it is based on some of the studies. The barriers are lack of resources, lack of kind of a community or connections, and self-confidence, and lack of funding. So those are the 4 big reasons why women specifically have struggled to take an idea and go beyond just a solopreneur.
Okay. I wanted to get your thoughts on some of that thing that you just mentioned. You told one of the reasons or barriers you said that women may struggle with self-confidence, and in business, self-confidence is everything. One of the things that I see a lot of, especially with women on business, is that a lot of the businesses that women are starting are geared toward some type of empowerment type business. And dealing with the exact thing you said. My question to you, are those types of businesses scalable?
I think every business is scalable.
Okay.
Every business is scalable. It just depends on, are the tools in place to be able to scale it? Because scalability is you've created a business that has a demand, right? Is the demand already there and you're entering a space to basically serve the current demand? Or are you going into a business that has, or into a category that is in a trend where you're also, that demand's going to explode, and you've got to either create the demand, or you've got to encourage business, to you. But every business is scalable. But a lot of times it's, how do you unlock that knowledge and get the tools that you need to be able to go to even figure out, oh, I didn't even think this business was scalable. And then people can decide, is that right for them? Because it's a whole different mindset to go from a solo operation where you're in control of yourself, your expenses are really low. It's more of a lifestyle play of, I'm fitting, this idea, this business into, having a lifestyle that makes sense for me, because you can travel, or you set your own hours, and you keep the demand into what fits for you. But it's a different mindset when you're like, okay, I've got to take risk and hire others and be responsible for others. So then you've got team recruitment, team retention. What are the tools, the operating systems, and the C of those decisions? Funding. Are you going to do traditional funding? Are you going after investor funding? Whole different decision-making pathways that you have to go depending on what path you want. So it becomes, that's where I said that confidence level gets challenged, because you're entering spaces that you may not have had in your professional career. I mean, I started my business when I was in my early 40s. I had spent 25 years in corporate America and was familiar with boardrooms, but I came in as a founder and was like, owning your own business and being responsible for your brand, and having, being accountable of your reputation and, what you put out there, and the team that you hire to represent you. It's just a different level of mindset, and it gets very scary. I'm sure you've heard the term, Michael, the imposter syndrome. I mean, that's a real, mental health anxiety issue that a lot of women face. And a lot of it comes down to, we don't have necessarily great role models to go, oh, I see them. I see myself in, 30 people in my community, or 150 people in my community that are killing it as a minority owned business, right? I mean, you look at like the Fortune 1000, there's only 53 CEO women that are a part of the Fortune 1000. So we don't necessarily have those role models. And one of the reasons that OrangeWip was born was because of the lack of diverse stories, the lack of when I say diverse stories of what innovation means in a community. A lot of the entrepreneurial ecosystems, in the unicorns or the champions that kind of say, hey, Columbia, this is what it means to be an entrepreneur. A lot of times, if you look at who's being championed by, a city, whether it's Greenville, Charleston, Columbia, Austin, Indianapolis, I mean, I can name a ton of cities. It's usually a handful of entrepreneurs that are usually in, a tech space, or maybe a bioscience space, or something kind of in that more technology world. And they all tend to look alike, and they're not minority and women. So OrangeWip is dedicated to tell a broader, diverse stories of innovation, because innovation can happen anywhere, in any industry, any category. And so how do we inspire people by going, we need to identify and have better role models across the board, not just in these like one or two industries, and they all look, they're 20 something, and they're white men, um, and then people can't identify. And we hear that when we've polled and talked to thousands of entrepreneurs across the country, when we were deciding, do we start this business? Is this an idea? Is this solve a problem? That was what kept being echoed of, I don't even know if I should call myself an entrepreneur, because the entrepreneurs that are talked about in my market don't look like me. They're like, I'm a 50-year-old Black woman. I don't look like them. I don't think I'm invited in that space. And I'm sitting there going, my gosh, you innovated like an entirely different category in, in this industry, in this manufacturing industry. Of course you're an entrepreneur. And they're like, but I don't feel that way because I'm not included.
Right.
So that was one of the missions of OrangeWip, is coming as from a media company. We're not competing with the broader business media. They got to cover ribbon cuttings, the full gamut of business. We're coming in and we're saying we are exclusively dedicated to founders and entrepreneurs at the local level. We can go, and we want to expand to different cities. We're in Greenville, Charleston, and Columbia today, but it's about how are we building these hyperlocal platforms that are there to inform and inspire and motivate and create connections and start to build a healthier, thriving ecosystem that is more inclusive. And also it's more indicative and reflective of the greater entrepreneurial base within each market. I mean, when I look at like Columbia, right, there are 13,000 some small businesses. Out of that, there's only like 1,600 or so, or 1,800 minority-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. And even if you look at that broader business, but you only hear about maybe a handful of entrepreneurs. Why are we not talking about the thousands of entrepreneurs that might inspire somebody else to move forward?
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree. You have OrangeWip, where you use that platform to tell the stories of entrepreneurs. How does Bright co-marketing fit into that equation?
Yeah. So when you look at media companies, right, there's different models. There's we're an ad revenue based, but we sell native advertising or branded content. Much like the Atlantic or BBC or HGTV, when they're selling kind of that native or branded content as part of their publishing and model, they need a studio. They need a content studio. Brightco is the content studio and production arm of OrangeWip. So because we're creators and we're a team of art directors, copywriters, video producers, podcast producers, it allows us to be able to create the content for our partners and our sponsors, mm-hmm. so that we relate it to the founders and entrepreneurs and make a better connection through that storytelling.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that you guys operate in Greenville, Columbia, and Charleston. Mm-hmm. Greenville having by far one of the bigger economies, but Charleston has a growing tech center, and yep. Columbia a growing tech center booming. In your experience, what county, or is it benefits to either or, is more business friendly towards small startup businesses?
Oh, when you look at like the state of South Carolina, obviously that's why we chose Greenville and Charleston and Columbia. Out of the state, those were the three kind of up, I would say they're growing entrepreneurial ecosystems. But like in comparison, when you look at the larger United States, mm-hmm. some of the like they're growing. Like these three markets, we're kind of almost in our infancy of building these ecosystems. Greenville and Charleston are probably the stronger of the two than Columbia. Columbia still has a lot of work to do. But, Austin, San Diego, Columbus, Ohio, like even like Birmingham, Alabama, or Little Rock, Nashville. When you look at those have really healthy ecosystems in terms of there's a lot of organizations that are there to support entrepreneurs, and especially around startups. There's a lot of funds. I mean, Denver's another one. That's a really good healthy ecosystem where there's several funds that are dedicated just specifically to entrepreneurs in that city to help them start up and grow, versus when you're looking for funding, you got to compete with, every market. Well, a lot of these, like Austin and Denver, especially Columbus and San Diego, have dedicated funds. Greenville just created a dedicated fund for startups in these, in the cities. And I think that's important. A healthy, I would say a healthy, thriving ecosystem is where you have it's really the entrepreneurs that are kind of owning the space, and it's not being owned by like one organization. Columbia is probably in that, where there's one or two organizations that are kind of helping to grow the ecosystem, but it's really controlled by them. It hasn't been set out and owned by the greater entrepreneurs. There's not, and that's what I said. It's kind of growing. It's starting. And what I mean by that, there's, events that are for everybody, and entrepreneurs are kind of creating their own forums, creating and inviting the organizations in, or demanding the organizations to be better connected. Okay. And that's where we feel like OrangeWip can help that, because I mean, when you look at Columbia, we have 70 organizations in our resource directory, and we add to that all the time. But a lot of entrepreneurs or founders probably can only name off maybe 2, 3, 5 tops. So when they go into our directory and it's navigatable by wherever you are on your journey and what your needs are. So there's like 6 to 10 point filters on how to navigate the resources. But it's like their eyes get open of, I had no idea there were that many organizations out there. And thank you for at least helping us understand what those organizations do, so I can better prepare who I need to talk to, what do I need to ask them for, what information do I need to bring to help them help me.
Okay. How do you guys go about deciding whose story you guys are telling? Can businesses just give you a call, or how do you go about helping these entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So we work with a lot of the organizations that are in each market. So the chambers, the minority business accelerators, the universities, because like USC has an innovation division that they are working not only with students, but they're working with the community and their faculty. Like faculty have ideas. And so how are they nurturing those ideas to go from startup to an actually full-fledged company? But yeah, we work with these organizations, and then we're just kind of tuned into we monitor different businesses. We watch, I'm gonna call it the social feeds of who's doing what, who's getting funding, but really looking at the organizations to go, what are some innovative ideas and stories that you're seeing that maybe we can like help flesh out even more? And so that's where so it's in multiple places that we pull from.
Okay. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to find out what they needed to do to acquire your services, or just to figure out how to get connected with your resource directory, how would they do that?
Yeah. So go to OrangeWip, and that's orange, the color, whip, WIP.com. So orangewhip.com. You can go to the Hello Chaos page, which is our podcast. We love to have guests. So there's a place on there to go, let me be a guest, fill out that form. That's one way to connect with us. If you have topics, or if you just want to be in the resource directory, send us a note. There's a form on our website that you can go to and connect with us. And yeah, because we want to know what topics, what are those burning things that you need to know about, that we should be talking about. We always want to be informed by that. Follow us on social. We're Orange Whip on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Or if you want to follow me, the best way you can is Jennifer John Sutton on LinkedIn, or JJ Media Maven on Twitter. So connect with us, download our information, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. Jennifer, thank you for joining us on this segment of the Minority Marketplace, and I definitely hope to have you back.
Oh, I hope so too, Michael. Thank you so much.